So, COVID's hit different parts of the world at different times, but essentially it hit the UK sort of February, March time, and we went into lockdown and stopped practice at around that period. So now we're sort of 8 or 9 months into this, and we've not been able to get on the mat and grab somebody and do the stuff that we normally do. And this session is about what your practice has been since that time. What have been its strengths? What it's been its weaknesses? So I'm going to start by just going around the room and asking each of you what you've learned actually in the last 8 or 9 months. So Sean, you're right. You're on my bottom right. So I'm going to start with you tonight. Oh, we've got the very good mask. Well done. Excellent. We're all safe now in your company. That feels good.
Well, I wear it because I got sick on Monday, so I'm unfortunately will be less cogent today.
Sick with COVID?
Possibly just a flu.
Okay. Well, we're sorry to hear that, and hope you get better soon.
I am definitely getting better. So
I know that this is a topic that you wanted to talk about anyway. Yes. So kick us off. Tell us what the last 7 or 8 months has been about for you, and pros and cons.
Yeah. So, initially, my approach to sort of being forced to be by myself is to sort of go through the thought experiment of what would it be like to try to learn from O-sensei directly. And so I have returned to his lectures and have engaged in a little bit of translation. And that's sort of one of my approaches. And I've learned that just, I think despite their reputation as being terribly abstruse, I think he's actually very, very clear on a number of things. So for example, he says that, Aikido comes from the place of sort of building up the special part of yourself, which is kami. And you have to read a little bit further to sort of see what he thinks about kami. But that's been my approach, is to just sort of go back to O-sensei. But this is a very sort of bun side of things, right? Just sort of reading, right? This isn't physical practice.
Okay, just explain to everybody else what bun is.
Yeah. Bun is literally, it means deep learning or culture. It was said of the sort of ancient samurai traditions, right? It was sort of bu, bun, ryo, do. And O-sensei mirrored this by saying Aikido is 50% bu and 50% bun. And it's the idea that you approach various practices of reading literature or practicing calligraphy or tea ceremony or all these other classic arts. You approach them in the same way you do bu, as a sort of mirror of your spirit, right? And so you're trying to polish the expression of the light of kami within you, is sort of how.
Okay.
How it's kind
so a couple of questions. What does kami mean to you? Because I mean, obviously that's very particular to the Shinto culture. What does it mean for you?
I find Goi sensei actually the most illuminating on this. Goi sensei, who was a dear friend of O-sensei, O-sensei said, nobody knows my mind except Goi sensei. So I tend to trust what he says. Goi sensei says that kami is nothing other than the selfless light deep within you.
Okay. So I'm going to translate that loosely as kind of like best self. Does that work for you?
I tend to avoid best self because that, for me at least, has a lot of connotations of sort of an idealized self-image. which it doesn't have to mean, but I mean, to me, I grew up in California, and so there was a lot of best self, idealized self-image,
Okay.
kind of.
So what's the words you would like to use to put it in common parlance?
To put it in common parlance, there is a radiance, and I use the word radiance metaphorically, deep within you, and to sort of let this out more freely, right, is what the goal is, right? So the light of kami is that sort of inner radiance. People
Okay.
talk about emptiness, and whatnot, but
Okay. So the
but
second question is, so
Mhm.
your journey has been to go back to the source, if you like.
Mhm.
What did it ratify for you, and what did it change?
What did it ratify for me? It very much changed my perception that that O-sensei's writings were sort of mystified, right? There's a certain opinion, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, which is that O-sensei's writings, they sound amazing, they feel good, right? The feeling that you receive when you read them, you know, when he talks about, you know, love and becoming one with the universe, all of these things feel great, but that he doesn't actually tell us what to do, right? He doesn't tell us how to do those. And going back and reading them, this changed for me. Um, uh, so, and in particular, in his Takemusu Aiki lectures, there's in the, so I'm using the Sonoko Tanaka translations from like Aikido Journal or Aikido Magazine. I can't remember which one. He has a couple of sentences where he says the prayer, or inori in Japanese, prayer is the foundation and the great bridge, right? And the great bridge is, of course, Ame no Ukihashi. And so if we're supposed to first be stood upon the floating bridge of heaven, and he's telling us that, okay, well, prayer, as he thinks about it, is that great bridge and is the foundation of things. You know, that would be an interesting intellectual factoid, unless he then, in the next paragraph, actually describes himself when he prays, and his description there is something that one could actually follow. And his description, all of the times that he describes himself praying, it has sort of two common aspects. One is of offering one's gratitude or offering love to everything. And then the other is of sort of embracing or absorbing into yourself everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, as a very simple, naive practice, right, one could call up the feeling of gratitude in one's body, or just offer the feeling in one's body gratefully to everything. And, you know, this has sort of been my naive approach to trying, you know, taking him just very literally. But yeah, that's been sort of out of the Bun side of things. In terms of like physical movement, right? Because of course, none of what I've described requires moving.
Yep.
I've really begun to appreciate the value of solo practice and the very different challenges that it poses. So, for instance, you know, things like step turns, like torifune, right? You know, the rowing exercise, if people are more familiar with that word, and things like that as really fundamental practices, and how, you know, even something like hapu undo, right? You know, sort of stepping in different directions and raising and lowering your hands, things like that, which in my earlier years I always approached in a certain desultory manner. You know, at the beginning of class, oh, when do we get to the throwing, right? Now I see as really, really fundamental practices, and practicing them by yourself presents a whole host of new challenges, I think.
Can I stop you there?
Well,
Because I'd really like to explore what those new challenges were and what you learned from that. But I think I want to go around the room and see what others thought.
absolutely.
So brilliant start. Thank you, Sean. Piers.
Can you come back to me?
Yes, I can. John, you've been doing, John Slocum, you've been doing a lot online, I know. So I'm really interested to hear how you fared.
Yeah, I've been using the Zoom platform for teaching. I've been doing 3 lessons a week to the students that were wishing to do that on Zoom. It's been very challenging. I've also been taking lesson as well. Personally, I've been taking lesson from Gordon, who's here, and Charles Harris, which I've been really enjoying so much. But the teaching has been totally incredibly interesting, the way that I've had to reformat everything from teaching in class, where you would show a technique a few times and then throw in a few bullet points and then go around the class and see how everyone's doing, to what we've got now with the Zoom, where I'm doing shadow aikido. It's incredibly more difficult, and I'm having to express myself a lot more, which I didn't really do before. So I'm learning to come across a lot more. Interestingly, I've got a blind student in my class, and he says that he can follow the classes quite easily on the Zoom platform.
Amazing. Amazing. So your practice, so for you, has the period been actually a fruitful one or otherwise?
Oh yes, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I've stayed fit. I've kept my weight. I'm doing more Aikido than I did before. Instead of once a week for an hour and a half, I'm doing about 5-6 hours a week now. So it's been beneficial to me.
Okay, so at the end of all of this, when there is an end, hopefully we'll get to an end. When you're back on the mat, what will you maintain of your current practice?
Do you mean will I carry on teaching it on Zoom?
Well, yeah, will you? I mean, if Gordon and Charles were still offering stuff online, would you choose to still go on to those occasionally?
Almost definitely. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. It's great just going back to being a student again, and it's with no pressure. So I've really enjoyed it. So
John, can I just ask you how many years you've been practicing now?
52 years.
I think that's a wonderful attitude. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to work up my screen, which is you, Gordon. So you've just had this wonderful plaudit. What's the last 8 or 9 months brought for you?
Well, I'm speechless after what John just said.
Well, that's a first for you, isn't it?
Probably. It's been great and not so great. Obviously, we can't practice with people in person, so that's the negative. The upsides, and there've been a lot of upsides. Some things haven't changed. You know, we do 3 classes a week. Monday is very much the body movement class, and as you know, we draw a lot on the teaching of Moshe Feldenkrais. So I've been following his teachings, and I do 1 or 2 lessons for myself for the last 12 years. So I introduce those into the class. I don't specify them as Feldenkrais. I call them a body movement, because I think they are known to other styles. Feldenkrais kind of put them into a structure, but they weren't his original ideas. He got them from somewhere else. For the other classes that we do, the focus is very much on introducing the breath. And I think John can confirm that. So we always start with some variation of 1 or 2 breathing exercises, and then we layer that in with a simple physical movement. And that simple movement could be just walking. Then we take that into, keeping that sense of the breath and the physical movement, how are we going to do this into something that looks similar to an Aikido technique? Right? So for myself, I feel that our learning in the last 7 months or 8 months or whatever it is has just been on an upward slope. I got to say that.
So would you, I mean, lots of these things that you could have done and have been doing to a lesser degree or greater, I don't know, you've been doing them anyway prior to doing them online. So what is it about this current period that's made it elevate?
I think it's allowed us to kind of look more inwardly, because now you don't have the pressure of a person attacking you. And so we've kind of moved inwards and taking the simple idea of using a breath and combining it with a physical movement. So we actually stress ourselves physically while we're doing these movements. So they could be an Aikido movement, or it could be a push-up, simple as that. But taking that, I found it's got its application into my everyday life, especially where I've got, you know, say I'm in an uptight meeting and it's a little bit edgy. Turning back to the breath exercises that we do in every single class, I find that just helps to calm things down and makes the meeting go more smoothly.
Beautiful.
Sometimes you don't get to a resolution, but you feel better about it. Right?
Yeah. No, really, really great. Thank you, Gordon. Liz and Alex, so you choose which one of you kicks off.
I suppose, yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's been a bit of a strange year for us, actually, because it's not just been COVID-19 disruption to our practice, but we've had to deal with very serious health issues within our own family. So almost as soon as COVID kicked off, and I'll let Alec tell you about this, I'll just take it from my point of view. I'll let him tell it from his point of view. But he got strange symptoms with his eyes and his vision, and it turned out he had a very substantial tumour on his pituitary gland, and it was very serious. So in the period of time where everyone else was locking themselves down and disappearing, we were having to run the gauntlet of going to hospital for lots and lots of treatment for him. Yeah. So a big chunk of this year was my running him around between all of his medical appointments. So almost I didn't have a chance to think about disruption to Aikido practice. And then as soon as we got over the hump of his health issue, his mother collapsed, and another round of serious operations in hospital and so on. So I spent my year as a taxi driver. Does that make sense? You know. Okay. So I think that what the benefit of Aikido and things for me, even though I've not been doing it in the way I normally do it, because there's some part of my brain that connects doing Aikido to being on a mat with people, yeah? And if I hadn't been distracted by these other things, I think I would have felt quite dislocated from that. But actually, I've had a lot of opportunity to practice Aikido in daily life.
Sure. Nothing like a crisis, eh?
Yes, indeed. So if I was starting to sort of stop to feel guilty about it, I would think, oh my God, I should be spending more time in the garden doing katas or something. But frankly, that didn't happen. You know, I had other priorities.
Okay.
But Aikido gave me the tools to get through it all.
So just circumstance meant that you had to have a sharp focus on Aikido principle to see you through a crisis. Is that a good summary?
Exactly. I think that is exactly right. And the other thing that I have benefited from this time of taking stock, I think, and consolidation, because I've noticed over many years of Aikido training that, you know, we're hard at it. And sometimes you can get to the point you feel like you've plateaued and you can't sort of get any further for a while. Yep. If you give yourself a little bit of a break, something consolidates in the brain, doesn't it? And then you then move into the next phase. So I think this phase has given me a chance for that sort of much needed breather. And also I've been doing something which I've never really done before, which is stray outside my own immediate Aikido community and talk to people from other Aikido backgrounds. And I've learned a lot. So I'll say thank you very much all for everything I've been hearing you all say for the last X months. And I think I'll shut up now and let Alex say something.
Yeah, it's been an interesting. this is just going to throw water at me.
everywhere.
That's quite normal. Yeah, an interesting year because it's not every day you find that you've got a tumour the size of Satsuma sitting right slap bang in the middle of your head. So there was a whole lot of exercises around getting out of hospital and getting back home and getting well again and getting fit again, get my eyesight back again, driving again, and getting back to work. So there was a lot of focus on where I wanted to go. That doesn't necessarily sound like an Aikido thing, but you know, when you're on the mat, you've got to know what you're trying, you know, what it is you're doing, where you want to be. So there was a lot of, I guess, the more spiritually minded people would talk about visualization and things like that. That's not particularly my basket of fruit, but I think that describes it fairly well.
Alex, I want to tell people that you came back online, so to speak, in remarkably quick time. So I know when you were ill and I know when you got better. It's just such a quick process. So did you really sort of go back to your Aikido training to see you through this, and do you think it helped you get there quicker as a result?
It definitely helped me get there quicker. And I probably wouldn't have had the tools without the training. But then it's having the instinctive feel to reach for the tools.
Yes.
And it wasn't really a conscious decision, it was an instinctive decision. Which, in a way, the best Aikido is instinctive.
Yeah.
The interesting thing from there, though, was getting back to work. Because the other thing, once I got over the immediate physical issues, I could get back to doing work from home because the offices were closed. So actually, it worked fairly well for me. You know, COVID actually gave me an easy route back. And the thing I wouldn't allow myself to do was to milk the condition. I wanted to get back to work, get back to as full work as I could, as quickly as I could. And I set myself an exercise of sorts, which was to try and do the right thing as much as possible. Now, that sounds very vague. How do you know when you've done the right thing? Do you get a nice warm fuzzy feeling? And I've found over the years, the best feedback for me on knowing whether I've done the right thing is, do I toss and turn at night, trying to get to sleep, mulling over, thinking about the things I should have done and didn't, or the things I did do and shouldn't have? And the reason you toss and turn is because you know damn well you've done the wrong thing. That works for me. And yes, that's been my sort of way of disciplining myself to take my full load of the work and to make, instead of making the easy decisions, to make the right decisions at work. So I have colleagues who do the easy thing and not necessarily the right thing. I think we all have those. And yes, that the calmness that comes from doing the right thing as well, because you don't have internal recrimination, you can then just, your meditation becomes, I don't know if deeper is the right word for it, but stronger.
Yeah. Well, I think being at peace with yourself is kind of the key there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a really fruitful task. Thank you, Alec. If you don't mind, I'm gonna move on. But if there's anything more to say, then all of you come back with more stuff if we get round the room. Joanna, so I know you've been incredibly active online. You've visited all sorts of classes, all sorts of people. Tell us what it's done for you.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit on the mat and off the mat. I have been, obviously, I think I'm the youngest one here in Aikido years or in life years, maybe. I did my Shodan test last December, and it became a journey studying for the tests, like about 5 months, helping the other students that was also doing their tests. And I begin just like a really deep research of what is about Aikido in my body, body awareness, and etc. And besides Aikido, I also practice Kinomichi. I don't know if some of you have heard of it.
Tell us what it is. Tell us what it is.
Kinomichi started with Mestre Noru, Sensei Noru. He was a student from O Sensei, and he moved to Paris, and then he changed everything that he was studying with Aikido to a more, Kinomichi means the extension of energy. Okay. So it's much more open, it's more through dancing, a lot of body awareness, a lot of contact. The wrist, it's not like going down to the immobilization, but for the extension. So for instance, Shihonage, it's not like here, you open up widely. So it's kind of, and you work more with the spirals. I was also thinking about this today because they talk a lot about our opening our body with the spirals. It's not that this doesn't happen in Aikido, but at least that I learned Aikido here in Brazil, we never talked much about that. It was always about technique, something about, of course, contact and presence. But this realm of body awareness, I have never in my entire life. So by the time I started studying this and feeling and experiencing this with my body, changed everything completely. So now during the pandemic, we were fortunate also because my Kinomichi teacher, she's not from Sao Paulo. And I usually only practice once a month. And now I was practicing twice a week, 2 hours training each one. So it changed it completely. We only use Jo and Boken. And it also changed a lot because I only learned Jo and Boken, just some strikes and katas for my test Shodan. So I was just with a piece of stick in my hand, doing some movements that I have memorized, and I have no idea what was it for and what anything. So also this sensibilization, this becoming familiar with these tools, changed it completely. I could never just like use my Boken or my Jo with my eyes shut down, because okay, oh my God, I have a weapon in my hand. And now it's something that's part of my body. So this changed it completely. Okay. Also the classes that I have been teaching and also studying with other senseis and my group, it's kind of, I'm beginning again. So my ukemis, I just figured that I'm always touching my head on the floor. I'm just kicking everything, my shoulder, my elbows, my knees, and everything. So I'm really starting from the scratch. All of the ukemis, just like this week, actually, I was studying with a friend, and for us women, how do we go to the floor protecting our chest? Because we're women. So a friend of mine, she was on her first day of period, and she said, "Oh, my boobs are hurting. What can I do right now for not to hurt myself when I go from a ikkyo to the floor?" So what happens to this? So it's kind of starting from the scratch. Just if I open a puzzle, all of the techniques, all of the movements, what happens to my body as a whole, not as something that I'm doing with my hands or my arms.
So you have the opportunity to do quite a lot of practice, or still physical practice with people in various dojo. I know you've been locked down for a while, but you have managed to get some sort of practice in. Tell me a bit more about your online practice and what that's brought to you.
My online practice, it has been really sharing with each other. So we are talking a lot more in our classes. We are questioning and answering more, or just like if one student of mine said, okay, this is helping to my breast, what's going on? And I said, okay, let me try something. So we're always exchanging, we're always trying together, and this open completely to really try my body other ways that I can do these movements. Just like tiny little movements. How are we massaging our foot on our warming ups? Why do we do that?
Okay. So do you think that if you had not had this opportunity, you would have learned as much?
Hopefully one day I would, but now not at all. I would be practicing randomly. Oh, okay. There was becoming something that was bothering me in my training, that sometimes of, okay, oh my God, I just can't handle it anymore. Do we have 5 more minutes? And then I really have to go away because this is too much today, or this practice is too much pushy. It's not, I'm not liking this. The group is not the best group that I always have. I think at some point, I don't know, hopefully I would change or research more, but we usually, my sense is they're very open to new learnings. But on the same point, we always stayed in the same group. It's not that we were exchanging this much that's happening right now. What else? Well, a little bit outside of the mat. It's one of the most impressive things is how fast we usually are. And I'm really fast. I'm really fast forward. And now that I am at home for like a couple of months, the first month it was okay, I really need to slow down. And then some 3 or 4 months passed. And then I said, okay, now I'm much more slowed down. And I wasn't there. So I was still going fast in different speed, but my fat shadow, as Chris Thorson says one class here, it's about our shadow, our automatic response. So my automatic response is, okay, I really need to do everything quick right away. And as much as the months going deeper in the pandemic, my fastness just like screams out, and then it bothers a lot. It's so bad. So this working up just on the slow motion Aikido out of the mat, it's really hard, but it's really deepening and it's really special. So it's something that it's helping me with everything.
Lovely.
I'm
going to say just thank you for the moment. Come back with more later. I'm just mindful of getting around the room if I can. Steve, so you've been locked up in Norwich for the best part of 8 or 9 months. So what's the last 8 or 9 months brought you in terms of training?
Well, I think the most difficult thing for me have been the physical and social side of life.
Sure.
Because I have been shielding and things, it's very difficult every day the same. So I alter each day only slightly, but I alter things around during the day. So I firstly know what day it is, and also that I'm doing something different.
Yep.
But Aikido purposes, I tend to take Fergus for a walk, because where I live is all heathlands and sort of woodlands, and I can let him off and just spend time getting my mind in commune with the natural things around me.
Okay.
So getting that at least link with the earth, sky, and the ground, and everything. I think what's more worrying to the extent that I have to then even more plan to find different ways of shopping.
Sure. Can I keep you on the Aikido front, because I'm mindful of that? So
yeah,
I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and we're trying to keep them to sort of yes/no answers unless they need expanding on. Has your training stopped?
My training is improved during the day.
Okay. So has it been fruitful over the last 8 months? Your training, just your training.
I think it has. It has, because I had to read more and do other things along those lines, which I would not normally have done.
Okay, so when you come back to the mat, will you be better or worse?
Hopefully the same, but little improvement in the way one takes one's thoughts.
Okay, brilliant. Can I move on, Steve? I don't want to hear what you got to say. It's just I've got to get around the room. Dimitra. So you've been lucky enough to do some Tai Chi outside classes, but focusing on your Aikido, what's the last 8 or 9 months brought you?
Well, since the first lockdown in March, I've never stopped the practice of Tai Chi, either in class or in the parks or online right now, with a seminar, 4-day seminar in the summertime. And Aikido, we haven't been back to the dojo because it's different. It's so much touching involved.
Yeah.
And, but what I've been doing is that I do a lot of practice, a lot of like Jo Kata by myself, that I know I always love Jo Kata. And then the same thing that I've been doing during the COVID in Tai Chi practice, that when it comes to partner work, working with a partner, we do, for avoiding to touch each other, we do shadow Tai Chi or shadow Aikido. Just connecting with the energy of the other person without touching the hand or the actual body. And this is what I've, in my own time, private time, I try to do this with practicing Aikido, different Aikido techniques, with imagining, you know, an energy attack from the other side, either linear attack and try to do these shadow movements with myself, practice the different techniques by myself. Which actually, it was not so difficult because of my background in Tai Chi. Tai Chi is also called in Chinese like shadow boxing, because you always have an imaginary other person in front of you that you are responding to or connecting to. So it's always been, there has always been an awareness of another shadow energy next to you or in front of you. So this has made my practice of Aikido techniques alone somehow easier.
So has it deepened your practice, kept it the same, or what?
Well, in a way, yes. Well, certainly, yes. I certainly miss the touch and the techniques we do with partners and touching and all this connection. But I have certainly gained a lot. I would have never looked so much more inward, developing the shadow techniques in such a way if I didn't have this prohibition now that's not allowed to touch. Plus that thinking of what the first speaker said, Sean from with the mask.
Will do.
Yeah, he talked a lot about his O-sensei and his
interpretation.
No, his interpretation only, but also how he was influenced and touched by his teaching. Totally agree with what he said, and the way that he said that in Aikido originally, O-sensei was teaching that one, through the practice of Aikido, is getting in touch with his own kami. And kami in Japanese means, it has many interpretations, but it means divine. It doesn't necessarily mean the Western word God, the way God is used in the Western world, but kami in Japanese has many interpretations and means the divine part of yourself.
Okay.
Intangible divine part of yourself, the luminous part of yourself. And I totally agree with that. And I think we shouldn't lose track of that in Aikido in the years to come. And also, actually he did one of the basic techniques that he left for us to connect with his kami is through the breath. Through the breath. In one of the quotes of Sensei during his really last year of his life before he passed away, is that he used to tell to his advanced students that when I inhale, I breathe in the whole universe. And this is not theory. And of course, to somebody who doesn't practice Tai Chi or Aikido or Qigong, it doesn't make any sense, this. It looks like a huge exaggeration. But to somebody who has been practicing for decades, it is so simple. It's like with the breath, the human mind has the ability to connect through space-time. And
that sounds like room for a whole session there.
yeah.
So I'm
Anyway,
going
I think that this is really, the breath is a very important part. And
okay, I'm going to stop you there. Thank you. But generally a positive experience.
very positive, yes.
Okay. Frank, are you able to unmute and come online? And if not, I'm going to come to Paul because I want to keep him awake. Paul, do you want to unmute yourself if you are? I think you're okay. So tell us, I mean, you've been running your own online classes. You've been great and come to a good number of these. What's the last 8 to 9 months brought your training?
And very important for me. One is, they both come from the Parkinson's. One is there are times, as right now, when my medication is running out, I find it very hard to move. And yes, the focus, the ki, forcing ki through my body, I can move. And I would not have been able to do that without Aikido. It's a constant practice of finding my balance, yes, and achieving some steadiness. I always have my uke with me. It's really neat. The other thing I've just realized is when I write, I ran into something. Many Parkinson's people develop dementia. They don't use their minds. For me, writing is I'm fighting with the words, not in a negative sense, but in a sense of finding the precision and the softness and the power. So writing for me is very much like practicing Aikido with an attacker, except the attacker's on my side. They usually are, of course.
So do I take it you've done a lot of writing in the last 9 months?
Pardon?
Have you done a lot of writing in the last period?
I completed that video, which was a 3-year project, and I just started a new paper that I didn't mean to start. And I'm finding new things in my movement, and it's expressing things in my writing. There's things that I didn't suspect, but this time has given me the opportunity to feel new things. We've just shut the dojo, tearing up the mat. It's done. I don't know that I'll ever do on the mat Aikido, but I can't tell right now anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
so
here I am.
Personally, a very rich period then.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Most of the really important stuff I feel that I've done has been since 2002 when I was diagnosed.
Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Frankie, would you like to talk now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Just talk up a little bit. Just tell us what the last 8 to 9 months has brought your practice.
So currently, my practice here has been the same as alone, but for the few months, we have been having contact training.
Too quiet, Quen.
Can you talk up a bit, Frank? You might have to shout a bit.
Okay.
That's better.
That's better. So I'm saying currently we have the dojos are closed, but with my students who are far from the city, I've been visiting them and we have been having contact training.
Yep.
But with the way things have been going, I've been able to do more of inner training, the meditation and so on and so forth, and also being attending so much of online training with different teachers and senseis, and it has the way I used to get Aikido, the way I was thinking about Aikido and the definition of itself about peace and the innermost of about more about Aikido, I have different perspective. It has been giving me a different way of thinking because like currently we opened school and I mostly I used to teach high school students. So I was thinking, how can I integrate Aikido with the line of my work? And basically, like now currently in Kenya, our young people have gotten much destroyed by drugs. And we were having conversation a few weeks ago with my colleagues, and we were thinking, how can we be able to pull out our young people and have more activities that can engage them, because most of them are sitting at home and currently asking ourselves, idle mind, as the word says, idle minds have nothing to do. These young people are just sitting at home, so they are watching those things like pornography. A lot of things is happening with our young people. So, and even we have also online classes like Zoom and everything, but the concentration of these young people, because this is the first thing that our students are doing, because we have never been having online classes. We have most of us, this is a open thing that we are having. So as I can say much in Aikido, because I was concentrating, how can we be able to reach out our young people through martial arts of Aikido? Because basically I'm young also in Aikido. I have no much experience, but through this time I've been able to gain much and learn much through what I've been doing on my personal time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Patrick, I'm going to come to you now.
Yep. Hello.
Hi, Guy.
So for me, personally, I've been exploring deeper within myself about so within the personal contact between person to person of the touch, there's something that gets transmitted that I cannot put into words, but I can definitely know it's there. And when I'm working by myself, I don't experience that in the same way. So I'm looking for that. What is that? I have a rough idea, and I'm saying, well, it must be in me somewhere as well. So I'm doing a more like a zanshin within myself to find out what is that interconnection between one human being to another human being that often I think many of us experience on the mat, whether we can put it into words or not. But it must also be in myself as well somewhere, this thing. And so I'm trying to find, I've been thinking of ideas to explore and how I can come into deeper contact with that. And I've been doing it in other ways, like through my Jo practices and etc. And then like when I interact with, like, we have a bunch of plants around the house, and I'll go and like I'll smile at a plant, right? Something as dumb as that to a lot of people. Say, you know, why are you doing a weird practice like that, right? And then if you kind of just do it with open feeling that maybe something might be there, a lot of times I can feel like a smile comes back to me. It's hard to put into words because it's working on a level that's not a concrete a level, like when you touch an object or something. Anyways, that's about it for me right now.
So suffice to say that your practice has might have changed a bit, but it's carried on and been fruitful.
Yeah, very much so. Because I use it then when I'm interacting with, even like between us right now and the people in the group, right?
Sure.
So there's obviously, I see you physically on the screen, but there's something that gets carried in your tone and your voice that I can pick up on, right? Deeper. We all know that with babies do that, right? They'll pick up on tone of voice and so on and things like that, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of interaction you can do. like even your expression on your face, how you're rocking your head, you know, this way, etc. That conveys things to me, right? The smile that just came, see the smile that just came to me? There's an interaction going on in here. So I'm playing with the deeper meaning in myself with that as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Linda, you've had your coffee now, so you should be well perked and ready to tell us all.
Hello there. Still working on it, but at least I'm not standing around making it in the kitchen. Yeah, I have, there's been kind of a convenient confluence of events for me with the whole world going on Zoom. I had a problem with my left toe that I think led to a problem with my right knee. The things that have been troublesome for me are that dropping down settling. I couldn't do that until Monday when my physical therapist found the right muscle that was the problem. And so that just bending my knees and settling and also turning has been a problem. So I've been kind of forced off the mat anyway. You know, none of it's very major stuff, but really annoying if you're trying to do Aikido. My practice has been almost entirely online. We have some classes in the park that I've gone to and mostly done photography. I've been able to participate a little bit here and there. But I've been doing this, which I really appreciate. It's a great way to, you know, get a different view of Aikido. My teacher, Dave Goldberg, has been doing a Monday night meditation class on Zoom, which has been great. And then on Friday evenings, Robert Nadeau does a discussion from his dojo, well, from his house, but you know, his thing. So I've been participating in those, leading my own thing on for my dojo, an online discussion similar to this, inspired by you, on for our dojo on Thursday nights, and then we have a Tuesday night moving class. So that's been my practice, and it's been a pretty good routine, and I like the balance of it. But what I've really noticed about this whole situation is that I have needed to make a big shift toward, I am working on making a big shift. I am not there yet, about bringing my own self-discipline and momentum to it. Because when you have to show up for class, you're like, oh, okay, you know, I've been thinking about other things today, but class is at 6:30, I'll just go. You don't need to bring a lot to the party. You just show up. Oh, great, we're doing warm-ups now. You know, you do what you're told. It's all kind of input. And even if you're the one teaching, got to be there at 6:30. I got to think of something to do. You know, there's a structure to it. And I'm finding I really need to bring my own structure and create my own momentum, because left to my own devices, you know, I haven't been writing like I should. Right now I'm working on my websites, making some progress. But
still owe me a story for my book.
Yes, I do, darn it. Actually, maybe I have a few. I'll get to work on that. It's hard to think of one that's worthy of the book, but I'll come up with something. But,
so do you think you would have learned what you have learned in the conventional manner? As quickly?
Not the same things. Not the same things. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot of stuff I'm missing that, you know, I think I feel like I've, you know, if there were different tracks of knowledge, I feel like, you know, this one's kind of stopped, but this one's taken off a little, you know, so I've definitely picked up on some things I've done. I've participated in several big seminars, which has been really cool, hearing lots of different perspectives on training or Aikido or history or the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. But for me, that big thing is having to bring my own structure, my own discipline, create my own momentum, instead of just, you know, do what there is to do today and have dinner and go to bed. So that's my learning edge right at the moment.
Fantastic. So I think we've got David, Molly, Jamie, and Jacqueline. I'll probably pull you in that order to go. If I've missed anybody, then shout. Dimitri, I'd love your story. And Paul, if you've got a link to your video, if you could post it, there are people here who want to see it. So David, what's the last 8 to 9 months brought you in by way of training? Has it enriched it? What's worked, what hasn't worked?
Well, my only consistent Aikido practice is really attending this weekly chat, which has been fantastic. Really enjoyed the time. The sharing of knowledge that you guys have imparted has been really good. So that's been my consistent practice, and I think this has been beneficial to me in a number of ways. I have been doing some online teaching with local instructor, which John knows. Nick Waits has been doing some stuff, been working with Nick, which has been great. But I've also enjoyed doing Zoom things with like Mary Heine and Kimberly Richardson on the west coast of the US, which I wouldn't be able to do normally without flying several thousand miles, which has been fantastic. So the Zoom has been quite great. It's been good from that point of view. I've also enjoyed watching the likes of Paul Linden Sensei and Jamie Sensei doing stuff on the embodiment conference. That was really cool, and most of my embodiment conference I watched the Aikido teachers teaching, which was great. So I've done a lot of Zoom, but I'm almost zoomed out. I've decided after 6 months I've had enough of Zoom, to be honest. And I'm still doing, this is my second or third call today, and it's getting ridiculous. Yeah, but I haven't really. I'm missing my time frame for the week. I don't know which day of the week it is because I'm not in the dojo. I used to recognize which day of the week it was by which dojo I was in, and 4 different ones to go to, and now I have no idea where I am. So Thursday is my point in the sand. I know where I am on a Thursday. But I've been doing lots of other practice. I'm out walking every day. I'm doing lots of Feldenkrais stuff, doing other embodiment stuff. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
When you go back,
but I do miss the mat.
Sure, of course we all do. When you go back, will it be richer, changed practice for you?
I'll be changed a number of reasons, partly to do with these conversations, partly to do with all the Feldenkrais stuff I've been doing, partly to do with watching other teachers that I've seen and some of the things that they've done and demonstrated. I would like to think I'll be better and different.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I forgot you, big bro. I won't forget you. Molly. You just need to unmute.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
You are now.
Oh, so these times it's been a mixed bag. I have a huge resistance in times to sitting in front of a computer. I just do. I would much rather be out. Like right now, we've finished Rains. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful outside, and I'm indoors. It's like, so I have spent time on different Zoom classes. Has expanded my field of connection with teachers from, kind of all over the world, which has been really nice. Living in this, well, semi in the Bay Area. I mean, our area is rich with teachers just in general. And there's so many offerings, like every day there's something. So a lot of it has been pick and choose for me. I have liked being part of a global Aikido through the women's solstice seminars. Has been really a wonderful addition to life. And I'm tactile, I mean, that's my first way of engaging the world is through touch. And then visual comes, and then auditory comes. So it's really this touch stuff that I engage in. Because of my life situation, I don't make a separation between Aikido on the mat and Aikido off the mat. I just feel like I'm Aiki all the time.
Okay, so
right?
question. So when you had your accident, that took away many parts of what was you considered yourself, and you had to go from there, and you did it brilliantly. So now you've had another lot of stuff taken away from you that you consider part of yourself. Where's the learning?
Oh, well, some of the learning was saying to Michael Friedel that I'm not doing Boken practice, and Boken is almost impossible for me because of my handedness. I can do some Joe work. There's a lot of that online, but my Joe has been my circle hoe out on the land. I'm out on the land a lot, and I feel in commune, if you will, with O Sensei, and that whole way of being connected to everything that is. I mean, the idea of talking to a plant, I've been talking to plants since I was a child, and I had to learn to not let the adult world know that. And it wasn't until I hit, I think I was by 18, that I was able to have enough sense of myself to re-engage that language and that connection, and not care if people thought I was weird when I talked to trees, that kind of stuff. So when we come back to actually touching, it's clear to me that I have gained some huge asset in this 9 months.
Fantastic.
And I mean, I live with a partner. I can train with him physically.
That's
We
not
don't
fair.
do-
There's no need to boast. There's no need to boast. You've told us about your weather. Now you're telling us about your aikido partner. It's just not fair. Okay, and I haven't forgot. I missed you too, Vitali. So apologies. So I'm mindful of the time. It's just gone 8. I'm going to try and limit you to 2 or 3 minutes each for the last 4, which is really unfair. I'm sorry, but I'm just mindful. I want to be respectful of your time. So Jamie, next.
Oh, I'm so good at having 2 or 3 minutes.
Use them wisely, my child.
Yeah. I would say for me, as Molly said, I'm a tactile person, and I'm also a very active and traveling person. So, to be home I've been pretty much sheltered in place since March. I've been to downtown trucking as far as Reno, that's it. So it's the most I've been home since I was a kid. And that's actually been very rich. It's been renewing. It's afforded new opportunities. It's parallel to not being on the mat doing physical Aikido and having this whole new space and time open up. And so for me, it's actually been a really rich time. Well, first I went in for repairs, right? And then I injured myself. So that's been one thing, but that's just been more recent. From the start, I kind of embraced it, and it's been a very rich and generative time. Starting the solstice seminars has been awesome. Looking at COVID around the world, connecting with all kinds of different styles, Aikidoists, people. I just feel like I've always expanded, but you can only do so much physically, and I tried, right? I'm on an airplane here and there and there, going everywhere, but not have to do that. I can do even more sitting here. So the connections have really been tremendous, I would say, and really rich. This is such a rich group and discussion every week. And, there have been others I participate in, others I've been organizing. And so I've really appreciated that. And I'm also been really excited for the whole Aikido world, actually, to go more inward, to look at the body and the body-mind connection and energy inside, and to not be on the outward so much, because we can't, to have that inner interaction as opposed to the outer interaction with a partner. Also to look at Aikido from the extending point of view, meaning what really is the meaning of our practice? Why do we do this? What does it have to contribute and to the world that we're in and to our lives? So I just feel like it's opened up spaces that we wouldn't ordinarily go into, and that I wouldn't ordinarily go into, or that I do, but want people to go into more and connect with people more on those levels. So I found it to be, I am continuing to find it to be a really rich experience, much as I'd love to be rolling around and, flying around and doing all those things. It's also a time kind of reflecting on, well, what and how do I want to be doing Aikido and all of these things that I do in my life, so that after this period, when we do kind of come out of the worst of this pandemic, do things differently.
Yeah,
really to do them differently and in a richer way, and to be putting the inner and the outer together more, have more connection to self, and then how that relates with others. So I'm finding it to be a very rich period, actually. And I think that it's so important to me. That's Aikido. How do we blend with what is? And this is what is. This year has been what is. Obviously, I'm having a very deepening experience from this injury, and going through that and feeling, and that's been training. You want to talk about training, just to deal with this the last few months and to be healing is, there's Molly, like, yeah, no one knows more than Molly, and has been also an inspiration to me through this in terms of, training gets us through. This is training in and of itself, and all those inner connections, and how does healing happen, and what's our Aiki energy and all of that, and our love and community. And so, yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. I'm going to cut you short there. The beauty is that you'll be back with us on December the 10th with your own session, and I suspect that you can deepen on many of these themes to a much greater level then. So that was lovely. Thank you, Jamie. And you've had a chance to write the book as well. Jackie, now you've been doing lots of online stuff, but you also managed to get back on the mat at least for a while. So that's all.
Not anymore. They give it back and then they take it away again.
That's life.
But it's like Jamie says, deal with what is. How do you deal with the situation? And somebody paid a huge compliment to me once and then said, "Dude, just you're such a Tenkan person." I said, "What do you mean a Tenkan person?" Well, no matter which challenge you meet, you always do a Tenkan and see a different perspective and see a new solution. You're a solution-oriented person. So finding these alternative ways of doing what you love, which is Aikido, but in a different way, and it's still Aikido. And then drawing all these learnings, and then the interesting thing I think is going to be when we get back on the mat, get back to grabbing people. Are we going to be able to pull all those things that you all mentioned, having learned? How is it going to look like when we get back to the dojo? Are we going to be profoundly changed? Are we going to change our practice? Are we really going to be mindful of pulling all this into our new practice, so that we just don't go back to the way it was, but pull it back into a new normal, an evolvement? So what that's going to look like. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yes.
So I would like to say that this is a crisis. Everybody, can this be over soon, and getting depressed over the situation. But crisis has two characters in it, the Chinese characters of danger and opportunities. And for me, it's been full of opportunities. Just have to see them and then, oh, look at the opportunity. I don't want to look at what's not possible. I want to look at the opportunities. I've received plenty of them. I would have never started with Qigong. I mean, that's boring stuff. It's so sedentary. But now I really had the chance to delve into it. I mean, what is it in the Qigong that I can bring into the, what does Jan Nevelius find in the Qigong that he brings to his Aikido that makes it so powerful? So I've been studying Qigong now with Jan Nevelius. That's a huge opportunity. I've had the fresh start with the blind people. I mean, all my blind students had quit, but now during this COVID period, I got 4 new blind people. I have the chance to teach a class for the IAF about teaching the blind, and it's really taken off. Reinventing dojo activities according to today's rules. We've had to change our dojo activities all the time. Right now, we just had a lecture in the dojo because we're allowed to have events, but we're not allowed to practice. So let's have an event at the dojo and meet up. So it's like you find these new ways. And with a wonderful lecture by Bob, our own senior sensei, about spheres and bubbles and whatnot, how to use that. So yeah, like you said, I've done a lot of online classes. I've participated in a lot of classes, and I've organized also classes with a Japanese sensei, and that was really rich. I mean, there's so much you can get from attending a seminar, but attending an online seminar with your sensei, and then being able to see the recording again and again and again, I've discovered so much more that I can now use in my own teaching. I've also met my physical limit. You know, I can do 5 classes a day, but that's it. You know. So I've had to learn to manage my own time. How much time do I spend online? How much time do I spend physically active? How much time do I teach?
It's all about balance.
Yeah. So yeah. So for me, yes, it's been positive. But would I wish for such a period again? Hell no. You know, please take it away.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna stop you there. That was wonderful. Let's finish on a high. Piers, big bro.
Well, that's very kind of you, Quentin.
I'm like that.
I know. Positive things out of this. I've really enjoyed delivering the online classes. What's been really nice is reuniting with old students, which has been fantastic from all across the world. That's been a real joy. Probably the biggest revelation, actually, a bit like Jacqueline, for me, I've enjoyed Dimitra's Tai Chi and Qigong and Chu's lessons. That's been the biggest boon for me. I've loved it. Really been good fun. Thank you, Dimitra. And when we were practicing in the dojo without touch, I think the things that was most interesting is we discovered that when you grab hold of people, that could be quite intimidating. And we were, without touching, practicing the principles and Aikido, which I think will have a real boon, a real benefit for new beginners, because it was far less intimidating, but equally as effective. So we learned new teaching techniques. As far as the online class is going, as you know, I'm struggling a bit with motivation now because running out of things to do that are different. And I like to get hold of people, and I'm missing that on-mat practice desperately. So yeah, there are lots of positives, mostly positives. But yeah, I'm really missing it now.
Vitaly, just about the last. What's it done for you?
Okay, first of all, I want to say that I absolutely agree with everything was said. I don't want to repeat that, but for me, there was not a lot of changes when it was locked down and all this COVID situation, because actually having disability in Russia, it means you staying at home all the time. So my teacher was coming to me every week, and I'm practicing every day with Boken and all this stuff. But what I want to say that right now the world actually is changing. So I got opportunity to see all of y'all guys and talk to you, and I would say I get more Aikido thinking every day. So we were discussing Aikido 24/7. So I think it's all the time, and I see Aikido everywhere. Everywhere I go, every movement I make in trying to do something, discuss with somebody, I see Aikido everywhere. So that's what I think it's very positive.
Fantastic.
For me.
Thank you. Well, you're an inspiring lot. And
Could I just say one quick thing? I'm sorry. And it's about Aikido in general. I think that this is an incredible opening for the Aikido world. We were talking about hierarchy last week, and to really, this wouldn't happen without COVID. that we would have, take, make, create opportunities that aren't from the traditional hierarchy. And I think that that is hugely positive and a great boon to the Aikido world, especially as we're all looking at, is Aikido relevant? What's Aikido's future? What's Aikido really all about? So I think that in that sense, in the really bigger, larger sense, Aikido is a tremendous gift. COVID is actually turning into a tremendous gift and an important one for the Aikido world and Aikido's future.
I think probably for the world at large, I think it's a rebalance to people's thinking about how they want to live their lives. So yeah, I think there'll be some silver linings, not just for Aikido, but for the world at large. So I just want to finish by saying you are an inspiring lot. And I think we get quite a few people who watch these sessions after the event. And if they're not inspired by what you've all managed to glean from the last 8 or 9 months, there's something wrong. I think they will. And I just finished that, you inspire me, and you've helped me learn over this period of time. The discussions on my own, fine, I might be facilitating them, but it's your contributions that deepens the process and makes it so rich and makes it worthwhile doing these. So thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this evening and been inspired by everybody else around you and seeing what they've gained. And we're going to be doing this for a bit longer. So we can return on that. So at least it seems it's been a fruitful period. May it continue to be so. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Quentin.
Thank you, Quentin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.